Meantime, the U.S. ambassador to Canada reportedly lashed out in a big way at Ontario's trade representative at an event in Ottawa Monday. Sources tell CTV News there was an unpleasant exchange between Pete Hoekstra and Ontario's Washington trade rep David Patterson. The sources say the U.S. ambassador hurled insults and swore over Ontario's anti-tariff ad. Patterson was said to be calm during the tirade. Last week, President Trump abruptly ended trade talks with Canada over the commercial and then imposed that 10% tariff on Canada. With me now is CTV's political commentator, Scott Reid. Scott, good morning to you. So, Canada-U.S. relations appear to be at a real low point. What do you make of these reports of Pete Hoekstra using expletives at David Patterson at a public event?
No, it's to be expected. It's actually in keeping with Ambassador Hoekstra's pattern since he took over the office as chief diplomat to Canada. I mean, he's been overtly insulting time and time again, and that shouldn't surprise any of us either, because Donald Trump doesn't appoint diplomats in the traditional sense of saying, I want an envoy that can smooth relations, that can work with folks, that can build up a bunch of relationships and back channel. He doesn't want any of that. He wants someone who will yell and stamp their feet in the same way that he does. So it's important for Ambassador Hoekstra to be seen as swearing and cursing and losing his temper, because he wants the President of the United States, his boss, to see that that's how he's conducting himself, because that's what it takes to get approval from the boss in this upside down, backwards world in which we live, now led by Donald Trump. So I'm disappointed. I think it's, it's despairing in many ways, but it shouldn't surprise any of us. This is how the Trump White House administration, this is how Trump world works.
Meantime, we have seen our prime minister remain cool throughout all of this. He told reporters that he had a good conversation with Trump while they were at that dinner. What do you make of that?
Well, what else is he supposed to do? He's got to kind of carry on and just, manage his way through this. A couple of things. First of all, I think the script has been flipped for Carney. I think he thought, prior to this explosion over the Ontario ad, that he would probably end up cementing some kind of side deal on energy and aluminum, steel with the President of the United States. That would be the centerpiece of this trip, even as he then looks and works to expand relations with Asian countries and other partners. Well, now that's the centerpiece of it. That is unavailable to him, and he's got something of a repair job with the White House. I think it's also clarifying, though, in the sense that it's a reminder that Trump is the villain in this movie, and there's no dealing with him. You can't speak truth to him because, of course, that's offensive if it is contradictory to his worldview. And, you can't really rely on his word. If he's going to have a temper tantrum over something as silly as this ad, what is the good of and what is the virtue of an agreement with him? So in some ways, it's clarifying. Focus on what else you can do. We're going to have no choice, thanks to Donald Trump, but to reach out and to try to strengthen ties with China. That's a consequence of Trump's foreign policy. He's driving allies into the arms of China. And we'll have to see where else we can knit those relationships with the likes of Korea, Malaysia, and others. So, I mean, that's the card. That's the set of cards that the Prime Minister is now left to play.
Do you think that talks with the U.S. will be back on track soon?
I don't know what soon means. At some point, I think, relations will start to restore. The Prime Minister, the President of the United States, he's an infant. He's an enfant terrible. He has a little temper tantrum. He tosses his rattle at someone, and then he forgets about it a little while later. So I think that he's put us, so to speak, in the penalty box. But we'll get out. I don't know if it's a two-minute minor or a 4-minute major, but we'll get out of that penalty box. The question we have to ask ourselves is, how much do we really want at this point to try to strike a deal with Donald Trump? What would that deal look like? Would that actually be in our future interest? Or strategically, is it better for us to let the dust settle on other deals as Trump frantically scrambles to try to repair his relationship with China, which is now genuinely threatening the U.S. economy? Do we wait and see how all that settles out and then see if there's a better deal to be had?
Scott Reid for us this morning. Scott, thank you so much. Appreciate seeing you this morning.
Thanks a lot.